sad boy name is Lonely Lewis.
Lonely Lewis.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those episodes, guys, because I've been
Damn.
reading People for Filth all week. Happy Black History Month. Woo!
Damn. After this, Paulina's going to be like, yeah, they're not healthy individuals.
There's something wrong.
You guys need couples therapy.
What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Empower 610, where we
Empowering minds one episode at a time. And I'd like to just start, since I'm already talking, by saying I will not be saying this intro today. In fact, Mr. Bardales here will be introducing our two lovely, amazing guests. Who do we got here? Bardales, aka Lulu.
Well, first of all, you just got right into it. Welcome to the Valentine's Day edition. So today,
Please, this is not Valentine's Day, I promise you.
we have two very special guests.
I thought it was a third co-host.
Oh.
Yeah, Bright Edition.
Yeah.
She's auditioning.
I'm auditioning.
Yeah, so this is the Breakfast Club 610 edition. We have Charlemagne to the right of me. We have Angela Yee, aka Bright, in the building.
AKA Bright Hilarious.
What up?
Empowered Breakfast coming soon.
And we also have my good friend Paulina in the house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys give yourself a quick introduction about your background, and then we're going to get into the topics of today.
Hey, y'all. My name is Bright. I have a tax company for the last 3 years. I'm born and raised out in Allentown, so I'm with the Empower 610 Energy.
Gang.
I also have a brand with Nyce. It's called Nyce and Bright. We outside.
We outside.
Outside.
Let's show.
Hi, my name is Paulina. I'm a clinically licensed social worker. I specialize in individual therapy and trauma. I was born and raised in the 610 area, and I'm proud to be back and I'm helping my community.
On this episode, we're going to focus on a lot of popular topics when it comes to relationships and also just communication and how we can do better moving forward. So that being said, one of the most popular topics that, gets thrown around when people talk about relationships and when it comes to also just advice with relationship is like, and every good relationship is great communication. So we're going to get into this topic of what does good communication look like? So first things first, Nyce and Bright, tell us about your experience and how good communication came into key and what you guys learned between each other. And then we're going to ask Paulina as well.
Well, I want to say this in all seriousness. I do feel like you have a perspective in that as well. So I don't want you to feel like you're about to be the one asking all the questions because you have experiences. You've been in relationships. So I feel like communication is something everyone can relate to. One thing I want to point out is because I feel like I'm always like counter to a lot of topics. Communication is very important, right? But also like comprehension. You can communicate as clear as you want or you think you are. And if the other person doesn't comprehend, it's about reaching like a level of understanding. With us, I feel like we communicate very well. She might think differently, but I think we're on the same page. But also we make sure that we kind of understand, where each other's coming from.
So how did you guys first off meet?
How
Talk
do we
about
meet?
this? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll let her roll a story.
We was out at an event and I bagged him.
All right. So you bagged Nyce.
Yeah, so pretty much we was at an event and he asked me what color my Jesus was. And out of nowhere, I don't know him, he gave me a fake name.
Was he wearing the apple bottom jeans, boots with the fur?
He told me his name was John Smith.
That sounds like me.
Then he asked me what color my Jesus was and I was, laughing. It was all funny and cute and whatever.
That moment
so then around that moment, he was like, where y'all going after that? And he followed us to the next spot.
She in straight player.
He followed us to the next spot.
You heard her. She got the player voice and everything. He followed me to the next
That's how she gets when she's lying. When she's full Capricorn, she tried to play it off real smooth.
That's really how it went. You didn't have my number. I didn't have your number. And then we was at the next spot. We was vibing. We was chilling. And then I asked you for your number. And then from that day forward, went downhill. Had you on my bag.
Downhill. Got you.
So from
more like uphill, but
uphill. Yeah.
I know you don't understand direction that very good.
From your point of view, how did it really go down?
Well, there's some facts and there's some fiction.
Okay.
You know, I was me being the helpful community person that I am. I had reached out to her co-host for the podcast that she was on, and I had said, "Oh, there's this event, good for networking. Y'all should go." I wasn't sure if I was gonna go or not. I usually have my kids on weekends, but I was like, "Nah, like I'm involved with the board for Movement Moves Media. Shout out to them."
Hey.
So I went to the event, and was just in my in my zone. I saw them and said, "What up?" And then I had watched their podcast all the time as well. So then I was just talking to them, and when her co-host went to introduce me, um, I just introduced myself as John Smith, and she was just like, "That's not really your name." And I keep a straight face all the time.
A mess.
And then we was just joking around and chatting for a little bit, and then I did tell her my real name, and then I was just messing with her because I don't even remember how the religious thing came up, but I was like, "Yo, what color is your
Because I
Jesus,
said you
B?"
needed Jesus. I said
Oh
you need
yeah,
Jesus.
see, oh look,
For
you got
lying
that
like
part right.
that.
I said, "What color is your Jesus?" And sometimes I do that to people just for shock value, and at that point she was pretty much bagged, like
Please.
So I
Nigga,
so when we
please.
I did help out at the event at the end and was talking to some people. They had left, and then I had talked about meeting up with them. We were talking about going to the after party. Originally, I think it was gonna be at Love's Lounge or one of those other
Yeah.
spots.
Shout out to them.
But they ended up going to like East Siders, and they hit me up, and I was like, I might come out, but then I was like, nah, I'm gonna go. Shorty kind of cool. I wanted to pull up on her right quick. And then we was there chilling, hanging out, vibing. She was about to call an Uber, and I was like, you know what? Cancel that. We out.
Please.
That didn't happen? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
kinda.
That didn't. Whoa. Hold on.
So we're gonna leave it
Yeah,
to the
kinda.
comments.
Got it.
We definitely gonna leave it to the comments. Whose story do you believe?
This is a whole thing.
Who got whose number?
Oh my god.
I was like, you want my number? He didn't ask for my number.
I definitely
I bagged him.
You want to finish explaining like what really happened, or you want to?
Yeah, I got in your car. We talked for hours in your car.
Yeah, we was in the car parked by her crib, chatting it up, and then all of a sudden, like we were still chatting. So I was chilling. I didn't really feel like going home yet, but we was just talking for a bit. Then all of a sudden, like mid sentence, she's like, "I'm gotta go. We should probably exchange numbers." Like just like mid sentence. So I was gonna get her number regardless. I don't know why she tried to act like she bagged somebody.
I bagged you.
And then no, you didn't stop. And then after that, she was trying to play games, how some women be doing. And I just started pulling up on her. I said, "Stop playing, yo."
That's really
That
funny.
didn't happen.
Whatever.
I wish I would have recorded that conversation in
She-
the car driving back from Philly. She
It's
said,
all-
"Yeah, you really did bag me."
It's all
I
good.
was mad
She
drunk.
was over there playing Usher's Confessions, singing karaoke in the car. "You really did bag me. I'm gonna keep telling people that." We get on here, she starts lying.
Whatever.
That's crazy. Watch when we get home.
So, question, for Paulina. So, for you with your line of work, have you worked with any couples recently? And tell us a little bit about, with your line of work, what's a good sign of like good communication? What's a couple of signs with bad communication that you see?
Yeah, so I worked with families and individuals who they come in primarily with their stressors. It's primarily their relationship, and I've helped couples in family situations. The parents or the guardians kind of uh, work through some of their struggles in the home system, and with the communication, I have to second what Nyce said when he said that comprehension. I want to add on to that and say that empathy
Mm.
is also another key to communication. People barely emphasize communication or focus on communication, especially on social media and things like that when they're trying to give dating advice. But, someone can tell you something as simple and paint a picture for you and write it out and have you recite it back. But if you don't understand and empathize with what they're trying to tell you, it really doesn't matter what they're saying to you. So, more than communication, being able to say what you're feeling, but the other person be able to feel what you're saying and understand where you're coming from is more important.
Well, let me ask you a question because I feel like he kind of left you off the hook. He went right into your occupational bag. You're a whole human first. You're in a
Mhm.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
So how does this knowledge and this communication play out in your relationships? Because you've been licensed for 5 years, correct?
I've been in practice for 5 years.
So, and this is something I'm like just generally curious about too. Like with the knowledge that you've learned through going through your training, working in the field, Do you feel like that has helped you with your communication in your relationships?
Yeah, it's definitely helped me since I've been in this field and profession, be much more empathetic or try to understand where my partner is coming from a lot more. I've
Mhm.
definitely been selfish in the past, self-centered,
Oh.
and not understand or even try to see their perspective because when you're caught up in trying to get your needs met and
Mhm.
communicate what your feelings are, sometimes that overshadows what they're trying to reciprocate to you about what negative behaviors you're presenting that are upsetting them.
Yeah. No, I think that's real, and I appreciate that because it's, like, authentic. You didn't, like, let yourself out of it, and I think that's another thing that's important in, communication, relationships, friendships, romantic, whatever, because I feel like sometimes people and I don't wanna just say social media, but sometimes people always wanna portray something as they're never the wrong person.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's just not a way to live. Like we're gonna be right, we're gonna be wrong, but we can find a middle ground for like mutual understanding. And you hit it on the head as far as the empathy, because I feel like that's something her and I talk about a lot is
Mhm.
how we're both like generally empathetic for like people, but then also making sure we have empathy for one another. But also her and I talk about this, sometimes we're so empathetic with other people, we don't give ourselves empathy. So
Hmm.
she'll see me
Mm.
doing too much or trying to help out somebody too much or whatever. And she'll be like, yo, nice, you gotta like chill. Like you're doing all of this and you're not calming down for yourself. And so I'm like, and I always tell her, like, yo, let me try to make sure I listen versus
Mhm.
just try to go into my habit, whatever that habit is.
Yeah, and I think definitely like knowing your self worth before even getting into a relationship with someone else is super important. Because if you don't know your self worth, then you start self doubting yourself and just going into it like the wrong way.
Yeah. How do you feel like communication has played out for you? Good, bad, or indifferent in
Oh well,
your
I
relationships?
I feel like I got better with it over time, and then just like I used to suck at it because it was hard to figure out like how different people communicate because what worked in one relationship doesn't necessarily work in the next because
Mhm.
everyone's different. So it's kind of like learning everyone's communication style and also not generalizing because I feel like in
Mm,
today's age with like TikTok and everything like that, there's a bunch of generalizations, especially with like all the gender wars that's going on
bruh.
and people just get put under one category and like everyone's the same, everyone's a red flag, everyone's toxic, and that's one of the reasons why me and you talked about creating this episode here because
Yeah.
a lot of the time when people hear about like two guys having a podcast, they automatically go to like, oh, this is about to be this certain type of content and things like that. And at one point we even got confused.
Oh yeah. Yo, I
Somebody
forgot about that. You remember
I
that?
yeah,
remember that.
Shorty was trying to
yeah,
read me for filth on the internet. I'm like,
right.
yo,
He
I
was
don't think you
coming
know who
for
you
you.
talking to.
Yeah, she
Yeah, that
she
was
uh,
wild.
she didn't even listen. She didn't even
Nah.
listen to any of the content. Just started commenting on all of it. Crazy comments. Even
That was like the
question.
all black people look alike type
Yeah,
situation.
Pretty
it
much.
was a pretty wild situation, but that just comes to show like with especially with nowadays like how people generalize even that without coming to conclusions, and that's why like communication for me is like important.
And then she either like blocked me or she got rid of her social media.
Shout out to you. I hope you comment on this episode.
I hope she's listening. Yeah, I wish you well.
Hey, you.
I felt like that was her little
Sorry.
wave on the internet. You see? Brights antics loading.
So with that being said, what do you guys like feel about with Valentine's Day? Because like some people make it a big deal, some people want to make it something extra special for their partners. So my question is like, you, nice and bright, or do you guys do anything special for Valentine's Day, or do you guys feel like it's overrated?
I think
I'll
that
let you talk
everybody
about that.
deserves to be treated a little bit special on Valentine's Day. I don't think it's overrated um, because like some people don't normalize having date nights, once a
Mhm.
month like we do. We made that a thing, but that doesn't happen for a lot of people. So I do feel like those days, that one day out the year, is very important. So I don't think it's overrated at all.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't I'm not always into like rushing to like societal things, right? I don't have a problem with them. I think it's good because I feel like, and that's part of our brand. We're always talking about like the world needs more love. People need more love.
Hmm.
And the funny thing was the way things worked out last year. I didn't think we were gonna be able to get together on Valentine's Day, so we ended up doing something a week early, and so I was like, nah, we're not doing Valentine's, we're doing Vision Times because we're heavy on
Hey.
We'll be
vision.
in our bag.
Yeah, and so speaking of, I brought a little gift for you.
Oh,
Oh.
man.
We got her. Ladies and gentlemen, we got her. Thank
I
you.
gotta open it in front of everybody.
Yes, you are.
I'm shy.
Look at that. It's a week early, so you know.
Oh my god.
Surprise. Normalize surprises.
Where's mine?
Yo.
We don't want no beef. We spread love around here. Oh,
Gang.
I love this. That's so cute.
So what does it say?
Best of the 90s.
Hey.
Yeah.
See, so she likes a lot of shiny stuff, and she was born in the 90s.
Talk about details. Nyce is nice with
Always
it.
into
Wait,
the
oh yeah,
details.
nah, she knows, and it's a whole mixtape, and I've, you know,
He wants me to drop bars so bad. You tried it.
yo, she got him though. Don't let her
Tried
fool
it.
you.
Yeah, make sure you tune into Empowered Voices. She's gonna drop a hot 16.
Yo, that's super shiny.
Let's get it.
That looks
Nice.
like
Thank you.
diamonds.
Can you point it to the camera right there? Let's get it.
Did they sponsor?
There's see, she gets it because there's no brand on there, as you can tell.
Oh, okay.
There's no brand on
What he
there.
was doing?
But look at that. See, I'm rubbing off on her.
She said, "I ain't showing this gift unless
We
they
gonna
sponsor
sit
the
this
pod."
right here.
Yeah, dig. But
Thank you.
you're welcome. But you know, I think it's just important for defining things within your relationship too. Like whether you fall in line with society or not, I don't feel like some of these things are like make or break things, right? But I do feel like, and something that's we always talk about is like sometimes you do have to improvise because both of us are parents, both of us have jobs, both of us have separate businesses and together businesses. So it's more or less like we can define how these things work. We don't have to have everything defined by like what society is, and I feel like that's something that we've established from the very beginning. You know what I mean? So we still celebrate each other in our own way.
Facts. And Paulina, with like your relationship and also just some of the stuff that, what we talked about with TikTok. I know that you've been on a TikTok spree just preparing for this episode. So tell
I
us.
almost had a goddamn aneurysm watching all that TikTok.
Yo,
I deleted that app so fast.
So tell us a little bit about like, with your input with that, especially with the generalizations that go on in like today's society with, social media spreading the word.
Oh God, where do I start? He started some good points with categorizing people and being very much extremes. It's this or that. There's victimizing, there's blaming, there's so much things going on oh God, on TikTok. And there's like made up concepts like sprinkle, wipe. I don't know what the fuck that is. Am I allowed to curse on here?
Oh yeah.
Okay, fucking
fuck
sprinkle,
that.
wipe. I don't know what the
we here to
what
cuss.
is this shit? Whatever. But just I guess what's the public announcement? No, the general public doesn't know what a narcissist is. And y'all also don't know what bipolar is.
Get him.
Just to be honest.
Get him.
Just to be honest. No, but just so seriously, coming from a mental health specialist, I do see that these terms are really overused on social media and really used for people to either victimize themselves or what's the word? Really place all the blame on their significant other, whatever. And going back to what you said earlier, where people don't have a lot of self-awareness, Nyce, especially, and this is what's so important about my field of work and why couples therapy is so important is because people are very biased towards themselves. It's nearly impossible for a person to have complete awareness of themselves. And so this is why going to someone for another perspective, whether it's yourself individually, your family, or your partner and yourself, it is important to have that outside perspective because when you are trying to get your needs met, when you are trying to communicate with another person, when you are trying to make a happy life for yourself, that's clouded either consciously or subconsciously. And it's near impossible for you to see non-judging and unbiased what your behaviors are if they're impacting other people negatively, if you're impacting yourself negatively out of short-term gratification. And what I find is on social media is that people are so instantly gratified with getting confirmation bias.
Yep.
And then you get that on your algorithm and then you're just getting fed that constantly. And it just strengthens that initial belief that you had maybe for a split second and maybe you would have moved on from if it would have been corrected or educated on to begin with. And then people take these concepts like, oh, this person is a malignant narcissist, or
Yep.
this person, this is love bombing, or this is gaslighting. And then, it just turns into oversimplifying
Well,
the overall concept of human relationships.
yeah, I always say you could hear a lie 1,000 times and believe it to be truth, or
Hmm.
you could tell yourself a lie 1,000 times and believe it to be truth. And people love generalizing, and I think part of that is just being overstimulated, this instant gratification, and everyone wants to feel knowledgeable about something. But yeah, it does irk me because I see people just throw these labels out, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, and it is speaking of like you're talking about bias. That's something I learned in my doctoral classes where they talk about like in the research process where you're developing new information, how as much as you are taught and told to work your best to remove bias, it's literally impossible to remove 100% of your bias.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things that she said is just, and something that me and you both say is like a lot of people just like reaffirming the bullshit,
Hmm.
Yep.
100%
Hmm.
honest. So like a lot of the content that they do, um, intake is just reaffirming their beliefs, and they don't necessarily like open their mind up to like the opposing
Hmm.
viewpoint, or just seeing it from a different perspective, because just seeing it from a different perspective, what I learned from in the past, helps you understand someone's better. And then that's how you recognize your faults, because if you did fuck up in a certain scenario, like
Yep.
the only way you're going to be able to recognize it is seeing it from a different viewpoint that's not yours, because that's not coming from a selfish place.
It's facts.
And I think people um, oversimplify relationships, and they want, like, you see a lot of these 3 things guys shouldn't say, or 10 things that are signs that blah, 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 whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Again, oversimplifying human relationships, but specifically with romantic relationships, there's always a lot of blaming on the males for this, or the women for this, or oversimplifying certain behaviors. And like I said, with the sprinkle, I like trying so hard to force one particular way of relationships is right, and then
Hmm.
anything like that is wrong. Especially with cases like, for instance, the freaking, what's his name, Andrew Tate or whatever, like the red pill, blue pill, that nonsense. And then also women that are like, he's not nice enough. You just need to find a man that's like generous enough. It doesn't matter if he's rich. He just needs to be generous enough. Sprinkle wife, that shit again.
Yeah.
But like things
It's
like that.
magic.
Or if he says this, run before you can crawl. Like
Right.
it's
But that's the sad thing, is that people will consume that so much and they'll run out on a perfectly good situation for, a little crumb of an experience.
or
And
ruin something that could have been fixed.
yeah, everything is a swipe away from something new. And so that whole I could throw people out, type of situation is like a thing for people. So, they do that with friends, family, romantic relationship,
Hmm.
anything. So it's weird. It's something that's impacting a lot of people. It's just I also wonder like how do we offset that?
I think it's definitely like a cookie cutter mentality as well, because a lot of people that make those type of videos, it's like, if you don't believe what I believe in, then your way of thinking is wrong,
Yeah.
which is like crazy to kind of even think about. And it's actually funny that you mentioned a couple of those words, because a lot of those words get thrown around that are very trendy on like TikTok and stuff like that. Because you always hear the word narcissist, you always hear the word gaslighting, you hear the word toxic. Oh, like this is the red flags and stuff like that. So like kind of getting into those topics. Me personally, Paulina like knows that in the past there was actually a funny story of a person that will remain nameless, but you know who you are, so shout out to you.
You.
No, but it was funny because like she actually told me, she was like, "Oh, you're a narcissist and stuff like that," and I
Oh
was
my
like,
Oh wow.
God.
and she knows exactly who I'm talking about. But I told her straight up, I was like, no, like I can come off as arrogant sometimes. I recognize that, but I'm super confident in what I do. And then and a lot of the times, like with what I do, I have to be super confident and kind of ignore people's opinion of me, because or else I wouldn't be able to accomplish certain things, because a lot of doubt gets put into you when you're an entrepreneur, when you're trying to do something, take a path that no one else has taken. People will tell you all of these crazy things, and if you don't ignore like the negative say of what they do, like people will take advantage of that, and also people
Yeah.
will just take advantage of your generosity. So some people take that the wrong way. They go to a conclusion, they'll mention that. funny enough, when she said that, I actually phoned Paulina on the phone.
Don't bring
Yo.
up this
And I told her, I was like, yo, actually my friend's she's a clinical specialist, and she can actually tell you what a narcissist is, and put her on 3-year real quick.
Yo.
He really just called me and was like, "Hey, so
All
I have
for
my friend on the
filth.
phone, and I need you to tell him that I'm not a narcissist."
Wow.
And what time? It was late at night too.
Yeah,
I was
it
just sitting at home.
Random,
Did
random.
you send him a bill? Like, what you think? He could just call Google like
He
that?
owes me a lot of coffee.
Yeah, we
We
yeah,
got him.
we're not gonna talk about the debt. I'm in between you and Paulina.
Bruh.
Yeah, we're not that credit score
Yo,
looking
that
crazy.
invoice looks crazy on
That
PayPal.
credit
B.
score looking crazy. Experian not gonna like me. Don't tell him.
Experian, we got another one.
Oh. But if I could add on to something you said though that really stuck out with people calling you a narcissist as an example, when I understand why these terms exist: gaslighting, love bombing, whatever the case. I understand why people like to have these terms, and I know that there's a time and a place for them. But what bothers me about them being so overly used is the oversimplification of what they're trying to
Mhm.
represent through using that term. They're usually trying to make a general statement that is an accumulation of specific behaviors.
Yep.
So when someone is trying to say or calling someone a narcissist, typically what they mean is this person is selfish, this person is self-centered, this person is
Yep.
not taking my feelings into consideration, but that doesn't make them a narcissist. That's kind of extreme. And then people can say this person's love bombing me or this person is manipulative, but they are maybe subconsciously trying to get you into a relationship quickly or attached because
Yep.
they're insecure, and this is their way of trying to keep you, and they're not consciously really trying to deceive you. But then you get to know someone, and then you quickly realize that maybe you're not compatible, and then it feels like they're love bombing, but that wasn't their intent.
Yeah.
So what's the textbook definition of an actual narcissist?
So, an oversimplification of a narcissist is someone who lacks the ability to have empathy for others. They, for lack of a better term, they think they're God's gift to earth. They think that it's a privilege to be in their presence, that other people, they are entitled to a lot of things. I've worked with actually clinically diagnosed narcissists before, and they thought as a female therapist that we could not do anything for him.
Wow.
That us as women had nothing to offer him, and he couldn't work. He couldn't keep a job. He had VA benefits because he was a veteran, but otherwise he wouldn't be able to sustain a living because he just thought any job offered to him was not good enough, and he couldn't maintain relationships either. But so that's the extreme everyday life consuming actual narcissistic situation. A personality disorder, which is what narcissism is something that affects your everyday life to an extreme extent.
What type of solution would there be where maybe one person feels like the other person's not empathizing as much? What's usually like the go-to solution for that?
Unfortunately, there's not a singular go-to solution because it takes two people to tango. So both people
Mm,
need to be actively working in the relationship because both of you are going to grow, both of you are going to change, and both of you are going to struggle sometimes to communicate or understand the other person or just understand your own behaviors completely. So couples therapy is a great place to start because it lets you see an outside perspective of both
Mhm.
of your behaviors, how you're interacting, what you both can work on collectively for your relationship. But it also helps if you're working on yourself individually, the
Yep.
both of you, to grow and to become more empathetic and to learn to better verbalize your emotions in the moment, to better cope with your own emotions when you're becoming overwhelmed and not take it out on the other person.
Yeah, I think that's essential. And a couple of things that you said, and I feel like her and I talked about a lot was not being in a relationship if you're not actually like ready, fully
Mhm.
knowing who you are,
right.
knowing how you show up, know maybe how you don't always show up, and being able to kind of communicate that, and then also being willing to listen to someone when maybe you're not agreeable. So I told her from the very beginning, I said, nobody can tell me they know me the way I know me. I've done so much work on assessing my good side, my bad side, how I showed up in relationships, how I didn't show up in relationships, and how I was going to handle a situation when it came up again. So I was very confident in that. However, I'm not overly confident at to say like I won't listen to her perspective as something comes up. So I've always
Yeah.
stated I might say something or hear something in a reactive way. In that moment, I might feel some type of way. In that moment, I may say something not too out of pocket, but I might say something that may cause some type of reaction. But I promise, if you're saying something that you're trying to help me and I may react negatively at first, I promise you I'll be sitting with it and I'll assess it outside of myself, and I'll be able to come back and, apologize and be very specific about what I did wrong or what I may have said wrong, and take whatever is being presented to me into consideration. And I feel like it just takes knowing yourself to be able to do that. And because I know I'm not always going to be right, but that was something like we both talked about. And there's plenty of times where we've talked or had some discussions, and then I'd come back and be like, "Oh, nah, like you were right about that. I was wrong." Da, da, da. Or she's done the same thing with me, and I'm always saying this to her. I'm like, "Oh, I feel like this is like the healthiest relationship I've ever been in because we always will communicate through a lot of different things." But what's your take on that?
Well, I think that's because we both did a lot of self work before we got together. So I feel like our self journey that we had prior is really like key. And even if you are in a relationship and you're struggling with something, I think that is best to work on it individually, but still with your partner at the same time, if that makes sense. Like you have to get yourself right, know yourself, communicate, know what your triggers are, know what you need to work on. So I think everything starts with yourself first. So communication is definitely key.
And I think that's like the perfect transition to talk about the next topic, which is boundaries and setting up boundaries just for yourself and also for your relationship. And I know that's a conversation that me and you had a lot, Paulina, especially with not only like with your line of work, but just personally with some of my experiences and your experiences. So tell us a little bit about like good practices when it comes to like setting boundaries, and then some of the things that you personally set for yourself and what you learned as well.
Yeah. So to start, yeah, boundaries are a huge thing in my sessions with a lot of my clients. I would say 95% of my clients at some point boundaries do have to come up. Um, and when we talk about boundaries, we're talking about knowing what our limits are with either verbal boundaries, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, and that could look like a lot of different things. But learning what that means for you, what sets you off, when you need to step away and when you need to just completely separate yourself from another person. And that can be family, friends,
Mhm.
partner, being able to verbalize that in a way that it is not an ultimatum, not if you do this, this we're done, or if you do this, like retaliating this way. But if you do this, I'm going to remove myself because I can't tolerate that. What I notice is that a lot of people don't know what their boundaries are. A lot of people struggle to frame their boundaries off of their values. And kind of go bouncing off what she said earlier with knowing yourself and growing yourself, understanding your own triggers and stuff. Part of that is understanding your values, and I think people struggle to understand what their values are and how that would play a role in a relationship, and how realistically that plays out when you're sharing your life with another person.
Mhm.
What your boundaries look
Hmm.
like when you're sharing, because the goal ultimately is to spend decades and decades living under the same roof with another person. So how do you both dance your boundaries around to so that you're both content and not violating each other's boundaries. Um, with my own personal life, I have pretty strong boundaries. I think I'm pretty blunt, and I don't mind disconnecting myself from people. But that's part of my work too. My work has made me very indifferent with taking things personally. I accept people as they are. I understand that nothing I do is going to change them immediately. Nothing I say is going to um like change on the person's perspective of what they're talking about. So if I find that someone is exhibiting behaviors or having conversations that I don't agree with, usually I would just separate myself or just draw boundaries with them.
Hmm.
And I do let, in a professional setting, obviously, there's strong boundaries with myself and the clients. And so I just make sure they're aware as well of my limitations as a practitioner, and what their limitations are of what they can say and do around me, and being able to communicate that without hurting someone's feelings, but just making them aware that, hey, this is something that we cannot discuss and not something that can be done in this office, and this is
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, I think to that, I think that all of that's like really essential. I have a curious question if you've ever encountered. So, the woman that I'm seeing sometimes likes to have what she calls fake toxic arguments. Have you ever
Wow, that's lit.
encountered
Where's my phone
that
at?
in your experience? She's ready to look
I'm
one
about to
up.
pull up my notes because I got some shit that I really want to say
What does
that I'm saving for
what
my
does that
real
mean?
therapy.
Wait, no, it's
I got some
actually
stuff.
it is we play entirely too much, but one of the first ones showed up in my memories not too long ago, and I sent it to her, and I said, "Yo, you was really wild that day." So, but it was funny was about it. We were both recording each other, so like when I shared mine with her, she shared hers, and it was just like these two different perspectives of this like just playful discussion that was like fake toxic. But what people would say is toxic, but we're just like playing around. But I'm just curious if you ever encountered that because she started that.
Oh, I
That
do
was
that.
fun times. Oh, so you
Yeah,
We're
did
so
watching a
I
movie.
feel like it's healthy.
And the, like, exactly. No, literally,
Healthy.
literally, like how you just gave her that gift, and I immediately was like, "Where's mine?"
That's
I do
exactly.
that shit. I do that shit
That's-
all the time at home.
That's exactly what it did. Like, I asked him
Why didn't
today,
you ask me out for Valentine's Day?
Yep.
that.
Why didn't you, sir?
Wow, yo, don't do that. Don't do that.
Shout out to Dan. Shout out to
I'm
Dan.
gonna ride out for the fellas. Don't do that.
No, I do that. Oh, he doesn't. He doesn't reciprocate though, so it's one
Oh,
sided.
no, I
but
reciprocate.
I mean,
No, he does. He does.
I wish.
Smoke
fun.
sessions.
It's fun. I think it's funny because I know we know we're
So
joking.
it's healthy,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
For
I
us,
just need
it's
to know I'm
comical.
not crazy. It's healthy, right?
Nah, she's not.
I don't know
crazy.
about healthy.
Oh man.
I think it's funny.
No, we be laughing because sometimes I'll send her something. Oh no, some of the screen recording stuff. It be funny stuff from social media.
You're
that
gonna
it'll
get
be
us
like
canceled. You better
It'd be
not.
like a fake message that acting like we're commenting on a post but talking about one another. I'll screen record it at hoot up, and then send it to her
Who's
like
our girl
this
hurting
is-
your stuff?
this is what I should have said, but I said, oh okay, that's fire.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Angry
Yeah,
translator.
But it's funny, but to a degree, I feel like that like playfulness is what helps kind of make sure knowing that it is like a safe
Yeah,
space
it's like a
to
cute
have
jealous type
fun.
of thing. I think it's
Oh yeah,
Oh,
have fun.
only if I showed
However,
the text I got from her this morning, like that was wild.
it's been a while.
Yo, but it's funny
I've been
because
doing really good lately.
yo, it's funny. The other day she was seriously like, "Oh wow, I haven't had no like fake toxic argument moments in a while. I'm
But-
doing good." She goes, "I feel it creeping up though." And then this morning, it definitely.
but you
about-
set
it's about due.
boundaries. You told me you had enough.
it's giving Cardi B in her interview saying, "I just want a good man that got good dick, and he take me on a date, but then I get bored and I want drama."
Yep.
It's giving Cardi B.
Yep. See.
Call you nice.
Yeah. Well,
set.
she's Cardi Bright.
Nice
Bang,
set.
bang.
She loves
Or
Bacardi.
gang gang.
Yo,
So
relax.
bang bang.
See, there she goes with this gang stuff.
So, what are some of the boundaries that you guys set up for yourselves, if you don't mind sharing?
I feel like when you say boundaries, I want to say more like expectations. Like
Oh.
I kind of set towards the beginning of our relationship, just like things like that I go to church, I have kids, and then things that I like, kind of like my work shift, what I expect out of a man, like romantically, financially. But yeah, so I kind of like have more like expectations. I wouldn't say boundaries, but I do really well with boundaries with family and friends. I feel like anybody that's coming for my peace, I'm setting a boundary. Like I don't care who you are. So
Yeah.
I do it really well with that.
Yeah, and I think that's something we both do, which I feel like has also helped with our bond because we'll both give each other a moment to like just clearly vent. And in some case, we'll ask like, "Oh, like I hear what you're saying, but do you want like some type of solution, or are you just looking to vent?" Because that's
Word.
one of the annoying things. If you're just like expressing something, someone's over here trying to hit you with mad solutions. Like I'm not even trying to hear that right now.
Yeah, like
Facts.
I'm just trying to get something out. You know,
Mhm.
so we're both heavy on like peace vibes, so I think it comes to a time, especially like right now, if I get like super busy, it's more or less like anything that's going to impact my peace and is going to negatively impact what I'm doing, I'll cut it off. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But with my partner is different because I'll communicate like what's actually happening because we're closest. So with anyone else, as far as I'm concerned, you're on a need to know basis because ain't nobody paying my bills but me.
Amen. Amen to that. I've been losing friends and finding peace.
Listen,
I want to add on to something you
Captain
said though.
plagiarism.
sure.
You said something really important that I think is not done often enough, and that is setting expectations up front.
I'm big on that.
Not, but like very specifically.
Yeah, I was
what
gonna
you-
say, but people say don't have expectations, and I don't really believe that. Like I feel like you should.
I think it's setting
it
you up for
takes a-
failure if you don't,
Exactly, but you have to know yourself. for
because
that
then you're
one.
gonna waste your
Exactly.
You
time.
definitely have to know yourself and what you're looking for.
Exactly, and then you're gonna be months, years into a relationship, and then you realize there's this difference that you have that
Yep.
is not
Yeah.
is not compatible.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That
and
happens a lot. I feel
Lewis
like.
has a list if you ever need one of questions for first dates.
Now, I was actually going to ask you to kind of go through those, like especially some of them, because you had some really good ones on there that I was like, yo, I should have been asking some of this.
Yeah.
Where's my list?
Who got the list?
You got the list. Oh,
Dan with the assists.
thank you.
you?
I literally I got tired of hearing some of my friends. I don't know why they come to me for dating advice. I'm not a couple therapist, but I did have a list of questions that I thought the general population should be asking on first dates, and so I made a list. There's 22 questions total, but just to go through a few.
So more than 50 Cent, huh?
She did
He had
the
20 questions. You got 22.
She did this for fun.
Me and
I did it in like 2 minutes, and I
Yeah,
sent it to
all
Lewis,
time.
and I guess he saved it. I don't know, but
Copyrighted it.
because people
Got tucked.
and this is what I meant by people
got
not expressing their expectations and their values and knowing themselves well up front. Because then you go into something and you get far into it, and then you realize you're not compatible because you don't discuss
Yeah.
these things until later on to the relationship. For example, if a prenup is something that you're considering for your marriage, if you guys get to that point, if marriage in general is something that you're considering for your relationship, how much alone time you need on a regular basis, what your hobbies are that you cannot live without and that you want your partner to be involved in, privacy, boundaries and privacy. Can your person know the passcode to your phone and passwords to anything or no? Are you going to have joint accounts or separate accounts? How do you split bills? How do you expect to split bills? Is it based on what you guys make, or is it just based on 50-50 and that's it? Or is it in a case where you want someone to stay home and take care of the kids? And if you're doing that, are you willing to support that person fully, given the sacrifices that they're making to stay home and the negative impact that's going to have on their career long term if they ever need to go back to the workforce? Your love language. How do you feel seen and loved in a relationship? How often do you need that? What are your non-negotiables?
So, just going through some of those questions, was there anything that caught your ear, nice and bright, that that you guys probably discussed?
We actually do this often.
Yeah.
We ask these questions. We like normalized it. Another thing though that is I just wanted to say is that you need to like revisit those things because I know I
Yep.
evolved a lot. So my answer to those questions was completely different right before I met Nice. So I happened to be like evolving around the time that I met him. So it's good to also ask yourself those questions before you ask somebody else.
Mhm.
No, that's true. And I think, like she said, we normalize stuff. Like we're real random. So sometimes one of us will have an idea and then, oh, I thought of this. We should do these questions. And what we'll do is we'll answer them independently in like a note. And then after we've already answered them independently, so that way there's no bias or impact from seeing someone else's answers, then we'll share or put them in a note together, and then we'll have a conversation about how we answered. So then it's like, oh, I didn't
The
know.
conversations be so good. Like
conversations,
it,
yo,
it
they
turns
be
into like other things. We actually did a really uncomfortable one time where we asked each other like, "What are some things we don't like about each other?"
yeah.
What do
I
you
like that. Yeah, like like what
do
did we?
you?
Yeah, that one was tough, especially being like at the beginning of a relationship. A
Yeah.
little salty,
Ooh.
little salty hearing those.
Yeah.
I told Nice he talks way too much.
And I was like, yo, you're right.
Definitely, I hear that.
And he told me I'm always cutting him off. Well, because you talk. So we're going back and forth. Well, because you talk too much, So it makes sense. But yeah, those questions are definitely healthy and they keep the spark alive because like the conversations ended up in going different types of directions.
Yeah, and maybe you tell them something that they didn't know that was bothering you, and then they
Mhm.
try to put
Yep.
effort into changing it.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I
that
think that's something we do fairly well. Is like
Mhm.
heavy on like the listening part.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like the fact that you guys also revisit it because one of the things that I was taught is the fact that like if whether you're looking into marriage or just building a relationship with somebody, it's always going to be the person you meet at that time, the person you knew, and also the person you're going to know in the future. Because everybody as humans, like we're evolving, we're changing. So knowing yourself, and then getting to know your partner and not just making assumptions is like super important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a key, and then that's why I think so much is about making your relationship yours and not what the internet says it is, or not what like
Like
your friends say
50-50.
it should be, or what your family say it should be. I think it's like you define you, and we define us together. So there's that separate part and then there's that together part. And like, what is the vision we have? And then also making sure like we're still working towards that. And so much of that is, again, it's not just the communication, it's like the comprehension, or like you alluded to, like having empathy for the other person, depending on how like situations change or evolve. But like that revisiting things, it's like that's to me, those things like keep the ground very solid in the relationship.
You guys want to hear a random fact about relationships and divorces?
For sure.
Uh-oh.
You want to hear the number one reason for divorce?
Finances.
Money?
No,
Miscommunication?
no.
Mm.
70% of divorces end because of lack of commitment from one partner,
Hmm.
meaning that they're not having these conversations and putting in the effort to maintain their relationship
Yeah.
positively.
And I'm sure that's that. And I know no clue what the stats are, but I feel like that is something that's probably like increased over time because nobody wants to work. Everything's disposable. Oh my
Yeah.
God, this friend didn't like my post.
It's a
Done with
microwave generation.
done with him.
They don't want to work.
You didn't
We
like my
don't wanna-
post.
We
That's
don't want
messed
to work.
up. You didn't respond to my comment. That's messed up.
Also, I think it's also like the illusion that obviously, we're talking about knowing your self worth, but also the illusion that there's always something better out
Better.
there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that.
And one of J. Cole's songs, "Love Yours," is like
That's my joy.
that one hits home because it just makes you think about a lot of the stuff that we think about and we always want to improve. And it's just capitalism as a whole with like a culture that we always want something better, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in finance and stuff like that. But you never really appreciate it until like you love yours. So like for me, like hearing that, like I think that's where like the loss of the commitment is because like you kind of lose that appreciation of what initially sparked that, versus like obviously like not excluding like all of the toxic relationships, but like appreciating like what initially had that spark and keeping that spark alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. A random question, real quick. Just circling back to this whole narcissism discussion. Can someone not be a narcissist but have narcissistic tendencies? Like, is that something?
Qualities, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what people do when they use that term is they are looking at the traits of a person that can
Mhm.
be again seen as self-centered or selfish or deceptive and they generalize that to narcissistic.
And so, and because that's such a common thing, I'm an educator, so I'm big on like education and information and people seeking those things out. Is there any resources that you could suggest or throw out there that people maybe should look up or learn more so that way they're not just throwing these words around aimlessly?
Yeah, so a couple depending on what you're looking for, there's NAMI.
Oh, yep.
Of course, so obviously they would also be able to sometimes they have community programs where they give free services. Always look at your county to see what free services they have for mental health because that's been growing in the states collectively. And obviously, we're trying to get more mental health services out there to the communities that need them. APA, I know it sounds kind of random to do, but they give a lot of um, you know academic based education on any mental health topic. You can literally just put in the search bar whatever it is you're looking for, and it'll give you
Mhm.
articles. It'll give you educational backing, and resources. Um, and obviously, if you're privileged enough to have insurance, please see if your insurance provides coverage for therapy, individual therapy, or any kind of mental health services, and please take advantage of those. Just because if you don't feel like you need them doesn't mean that you won't at some point, and it's good to know if you have those available to you or not.
Yeah. No, that's true. I'm somebody who always says too, like, um, it's better to be proactive versus like reactive.
Yeah.
So like you're not gonna drive your car until the gas is completely gone. To then be like, you know what, I should probably get gas, and now you got to walk miles to fill your gas tank. Like you should do it like proactively, or not wait to the last moment because sometimes like you can break down, completely and lose parts of yourself. So I think it's one of those things that just kind of always be working on yourself and kind of just be open minded to like at minimum like resources and take it a
Yeah.
step further and not be afraid to talk to someone else. I know at the university I have students sometimes say oh, my friend's my therapist, or they'll say you're my therapist, and I whoa, 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 slow down. I might be a good listener, but nah, that's not my thing. I'll say to them, don't give me that label. I'm a communication specialist. That's what I'll say. But you should go see the counseling center on campus, please. Find somebody else.
It-
Get someone else to do it.
Now you're
it-
gonna be like, you can go see Paulina.
Yep.
Can I quickly explain like the benefit of a therapist as opposed to going to someone you love?
Yeah.
The difference. So your loved ones are always going to be biased towards what they think is best for you. That may not be what's objectively best for you. And they may not be willing to confront you with things that you need to be confronted about, whether it be your emotions or your behaviors. They may not have the ability to do that because they're biased towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a situation where it involves you to another person, they're going to be biased towards you. When you see a therapist, we are accountable by our ethical standards. So we do follow an ethical standard that encourages, well, mandates us to be as unbiased and as ethical as we can when treating you, to be unjudging. Our job and our passion is to support you to work through whatever struggles you're having, um, without having that biased perspective that your family might have or loved ones.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing because a lot of people don't really recognize whether they need therapy or not, and it's I think mental health is definitely becoming a very popular topic, especially nowadays, and people are starting to recognize it, especially after COVID. Um, One thing nice and bright that you guys have that not too many couples have actually is the fact that you guys went in business together. So, couples in business, how did that kind of go about? And how have you guys seen that in correlation with with just being in a relationship working out?
I just feel like there's a thin line. You just got to make sure you like we do a monthly date night. Like you just have to have some sort of like boundary where you like stop, like okay, we're done talking about business because that's a different hat, you're wearing when you're in that type of energy. And it is also interesting to do business with your partner because I don't know, I feel like I'm a different person a little bit. Like the way that I work, I move differently, he moves differently. So it's like you still got to keep that business, hat on and not
Right.
like, oh, I love you. And, I just want to, be biased and be like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's not okay. We need to get this done, it's done, it's done. So it's interesting.
Again, we're always talking about like spreading love, right? So, part of the business is really like fueled in that and recognizing that people need that in a lot of different contexts. So when we recognize that, it was like, well, okay, how do we want to spread love? How do we want to connect people? And so initially, it's literally came from some conversations we had last January and February, and then we just kind of like developed like a schedule, and that's why like the first merch drop we did was invest in love, but also investing in you. Like when you're investing in yourself, you're able to kind of love yourself and then also adequately love other people. Some people don't fully love themselves. So I don't feel like it's necessarily possible to like adequately love other people without understanding who you are and what you love about yourself. But then we discussed like outside of like the merchandising, like what are some other things we could do as far as like spreading love. So we identified that we would want to do unique ways in getting people together, through having events, through the merchandise. We've talked about, even like just we went live a couple times on the internet. People seem to like that a little too much.
Roasting.
Yeah, because we're always cutting up.
Mhm.
So we've talked about different things with content creation, and we even started a support group, Spread Love support group, to bring people together. Just like really so much of it is like building community in a lot of different ways. And, it's like, yo, come get this love.
Everybody deserves to be loved and feel loved. So that's really our mission.
Hey, I like the vibes. I like the vibes.
For sure.
So as we're coming towards the end of the show, we're gonna give some final thoughts. First things first. Common question we ask to all of our guests on the podcast is: if you were to meet yourself 10 years ago, what's some advice that you would give yourself, knowing what you know now? So, Paulina, I'm gonna have you go first, and then Bright, I'm gonna have you go after.
How old would I be? Maybe 20. Oh God, poor Paulina. It gets better. Forgive yourself and allow yourself to ask for help. I think that's mostly it, honestly.
Short and sweet.
How many years?
10.
10 years ago.
That you wasn't dreaming too big.
Mm,
Like that.
I hear that.
So,
Bright bars.
is there any merch drops coming soon or any events coming up for Nyce and Bright?
We got something coming for Black History Month to be announced.
To be announced?
Yeah, we got some
Do
some
you
real
want to tell them?
special projects coming up.
Where can they follow Nyce and Bright at?
Instagram, Facebook at Nice and Bright. We're working on finishing up the website. We got a couple of merch designs from past designs that we're gonna revamp, especially for Love Month and all that. And then because so much of it is centered on love, I've also identified like we need more love and strength in the Black community as it comes to Black businesses and Black ownership. Like she said, she does taxes, but it's like she enjoys her clients, but it's like what more can we do? But then also recognizing that there needs to be more unity. So we want to develop a space and a directory where more people know about one another, as far as like Black businesses are concerned, and like the needs of those businesses. And another thing is like the government is always talking about all this stuff, so we want to organize more people in a way to have a website and have a directory, for more people to be aware of these businesses, but also for these businesses to collaborate more intentionally.
That's fire.
Did I summarize that properly?
You sure did.
For sure.
That's fire. So in conclusion of this episode, let us know if you think if Bright bagged Nyce. Leave that in the comments below. Paulina, is there any other resources that you would like to let people know, or if they want to get in contact with you?
Ooh, no, thank you. Not with me specifically, but please, like I said, look up the free sources in your area. Look up NAMI. They have the community base by zip code on the website. And please check with your insurance if you have insurance to see if they offer mental health services.
Let's go. We hope everyone has a happy Valentine's Day. And thank you so much for tuning into Empower 610. And don't forget to subscribe.
Oh, here he goes again. Could you talk to him, please, about how he does his little staring contest thing into the camera? Because it's just, I don't know, it's a little weird. And if y'all could just like subscribe so like we can stop doing this, please, because I've had enough.
Please.
And Ski Mask Shorty might come for you. And she actually owns the podcast and we work for her. And if you guys don't subscribe, she might show up in a hood near you. But I just love that she does have a Love is Gangsta hoodie on.
Let's go.
Nice and bright and special. Gang.
Ski Mask Shorty, silent partner. Gang.
Yeah. Scary. Gang. Scary hours.
Subscribe, tune in. We out.
Spread love and light. We out.